What is up, everybody, and welcome to the NFL Showdown Pre-Lock Show. Thursday night football kicking off your football weekend. Should be fun, so sit back and enjoy. We got some time here before kickoff, and we're going to answer all your questions. So that's your first cue to get everything in chat right now. We're going to answer all the questions. Oh, we got a pleasurable treat today. This is fresh from the cheesy city of Wisconsin, man. He likes his Packers. Likes his tough break last week. But Beer, join. How you doing, Beer, man?
I'm good, man. I thought you were talking about this game as a cheesy treat because we've had better. That's for sure. We've certainly had worse, but an interesting game. Obviously, Denver huge favorites here. Should cruise, but I think there's some builds we can look at that kind of go away from what everyone else is going to do. So. And then you have the Jacoby Myers situation. Who steps up in his absence? Can Genti get it going against this Denver defense? No Marvin Mims. What does that mean on the Denver side? So it's an intriguing game. Like I said, we've seen worse, kind of ugly, but hey, a lot of money available. So let's get some winners going.
Yeah, it's a game, man. No matter how bad it is, somebody's going to win millions of dollars tonight. So you got 42 minutes till kickoff. Hopefully it's somebody from this chat or one of us. That'd be nice. But, yeah, it's an interesting game. I remember nostalgia kicking in back in the day. You'd have a Denver Raiders game, and it was this big rivalry. Now a lot of stuff has changed, and so we'll get through it. But, I'd also be remiss to not, it's been a rough day as a Cowboy fan, Beer. It's been a rough day, man. We woke up this morning, man, to some terrible news, and it's just a tragic situation, man. So I'd like to be remiss not to tell everybody out there, if you're watching this, you're probably having a little fun with DFS, and you're probably having a good time, but there's a lot of people out there who aren't having a good time, and they might be hiding it. So if you are, man, hey, feel free to DM somebody. Somebody out there will listen to you. If it's me, if it's Beer, TJ, somebody will listen to you, man. We don't, So
yeah, that was rough. That one hit close to home as well. He's from Michigan and played at Western, and so it's just awful tragedy. So absolutely, anybody is out there struggling with anybody, I would take a call, a message from anybody out there, and it's not just saying it like that. That's the reality of it. So I know we have a game to talk about, and things like this are tragic and awful, and we're thinking about his family and friends and teammates. It just affects so many people. Just an absolutely terrible thing.
Yeah, we're all in this together, man. We're trying to make some money at DFS here, having fun. We're in this together. So we are like a very weird, crazy family, but somehow we all connect. So we do got a game here. Denver Raiders on the surface. Implied scores look something like 26-16. So if you get in double digits in the NFL, you're talking blowout territory. That's what Vegas is telling you. Low scoring here. Roth kind of squashed some of those weather concerns. It looked a little bit rougher earlier in the week, but generally speaking here, you're looking at this game, you see 26-16 implied score. What's going through your head here?
The first thing that comes to mind, and the first thing that's going to come to anyone's mind building lineups, is Denver should roll in this spot. They have the superior offense, the superior defense, more playmakers. They're at home. This is a spot that they should dominate. Now, as we've seen in the NFL, Chop, and as you know through all the years, as soon as you think you know something, you really don't know anything. So I honestly think the Raiders can give this a game. Denver has looked good. Yes, they should dominate this game. Raiders down a playmaker in Jacoby Myers, who steps up in his absence. Brock Bowers stepped up in a pretty damn big way last week. So there are some players on this team that can make things interesting. So I just think that the main build for people is going to be jamming in Denver, jamming in Bo Nix at the captain. And I'm not telling you that's the wrong way, but as we always talk about, I want to find ways to get different. I want to give myself a shot to win some big money. And I think there's ways that we can do that tonight. But as far as the game goes, betting wise, I actually lean the Raiders with the 9.5 points. I do think they can keep this close. If I'm doing anything on the total, I think this is kind of an uglier game, so I would lean the under there. But both of those are just leans. I think there's some props I like, I feel strong about. But as far as those two, that's the way I would go if I'm betting the game.
Yeah, we'll talk about some props later, and we're also, get those questions, and then at some point here, before with plenty of time to spare, we're gonna get the Plums play of the night for you. It's always in the mix. So let's just kick it off and start talking about some players now, and see if we can piece something together here. Quarterbacks, Bo Nix, super popular. You already mentioned it. He's not like a typical quarterback here on Showdown where some guys, I don't know, just throwing some a Matthew Stafford type of guy or something. You're hesitant to roster him in the captain spot because he doesn't give you anything with his legs, and you're better off going with a wide receiver and hoping you pick the right one. If you think that route, but Bo Nix can give you a lot with his legs, man, a whole lot. So he is like a little. I say this out of respect. He's like a little baby Lamar. He can get you. You can put him in that captain spot. How do you feel about Bo Nix? And then go on the other side there. Geno's looked terrible with his new team, but any hope for tonight?
So Nix, I think, will be the clear top captain choice. He's going to be the most optimal. He's going to be the most owned, and for good reason. Like you mentioned, this offense is finally starting to click. It was a frustrating start, and we always love to throw a little season-long talk in here. And Bo Nix was my quarterback in a few leagues, and it's like, all right, when are we going to get the guy that we saw last year? Or is this, the sophomore slump that we often see? But they're really starting to click on all cylinders here. So to me, he's the clear top choice. It's a matter of, do you want to eat into a bunch of that ownership? So I'm going to have some, but I'm going to be under the field on him and captain tonight. As far as Geno goes, Geno's fun because he's a wild card, Chop. He's a beautiful tournament play because he's a guy that, end of the night, he could have 350 yards. He can tack on a little bit of rushing as well. Maybe they're playing from behind. So he's a guy that can put up 30. He's also a guy that you end the night and you're like, Geno Smith, 3.7 points. So, cash games, I think Nix is a lock. Geno, a little more risky than most quarterbacks in a cash game format tonight, but tournament-wise, I think he's definitely in play. And even if you wanted to captain him, if they're going to get trounced, he's going to throw the whole game. And Denver's missing some pieces in that secondary. So I think he's very, very interesting tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned some missing pieces. Patrick Surtain, the best defensive back in football, out for a little while with an injury. So we'll see how much that plays. I really, if this was a different matchup, I would really look to attack that injury, man, in DFS. I'm just a little leery with this Raiders offense, the passing game. Like you said, Jacoby Myers, their best wide receiver, Gonzo now. So I don't know how much that's going to play into tonight. So we'll talk about it a little bit more in a minute, but let's get to some running backs first. So it's a interesting slate of running backs here. On one side, you have Genty, who I think is a phenomenal player, but running back position is so dependent on a good offensive line, or at least a decent offensive line. He's getting no room this year, so it's holding him back. He's on one side. On the other side, you've got this combination of Dobbins and Harvey. And man, I just, you can look at with your eyes. It's not hard to see. RJ Harvey is an explosive, young, good running back. Dobbins is going to get more work, though. That's just the way it's gone. As much as we want Harvey to be a thing, as much as he's proven he should be the lead back out there in Denver, it's probably still going to be J.K. Dobbins. But tonight, with a caveat, it's a 10-point spread. Maybe they do a little less Dobbins and more Harvey. I don't know. Talk to me about these running backs here.
Yeah, I think they're all interesting. I mean, the Denver side, obviously, big favorites is, usually a starting point. You want to look for running backs. Dobbins is getting a majority of the work on the ground, and I don't think that changes here. And Harvey has brought a big play element to this team, which is kind of what everybody envisioned with him with Sean Payton. It took a little while, but we see that all the time. Rookie running backs can take some time, and he's a big play waiting to happen. So love both of those guys tonight. I think they're both captain viable. I don't mind if you wanted to fade Bo Nix and just play through the Denver running game. I think that's an opportunity here as well. So You put Harvey and Kaplen, it really opens up a lot of salary for you. You can pretty much get anybody you want. Dobbins, huge touchdown equity. So if you're playing on FanDuel, that's got a lot of value over there. So very high in both of these backs. Harvey, obviously the shiny new toy people are excited about. Dobbins, kind of the old guy, not very exciting, but just continues to get the job done. So both are great options tonight. Genti, I worry about a little bit, and you nailed it. I love the talent. It's a matter of an offensive line versus a defensive line mismatch here. So the Raiders, one of the worst offensive lines. I mean, he's getting hit behind the line of scrimmage at a higher rate than anybody in the league. He can get involved in the passing game, so maybe that saves him. Is there enough of that, though, to justify his cost? So certain builds, Raiders heavy builds, I think he makes sense. Overall, probably a guy I'm going to be much lower on than the field tonight.
Fire off those questions, guys. I'm keeping track of them, and we'll answer them later. Not very many right now, so you need to get them in there and keep us here a little bit longer. Ricky Rose makes a statement. He says, if all the money is on the Broncos, -9.5, he can see Vegas rug pull where the Raiders actually come in and do. Man, that's a tale as old as time.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt, Ricky. That could
make the call, and okay, we need Vegas they can lose by 7, 8, 9. It don't matter. So it's always in the back of your mind, and you have the people out there. Everything is scripted, and who knows? And we may never know, but certainly got to be a thought in your head. And just for tournament builds, nobody's going to go Raiders heavy. That's going to instantly make you unique. And rarely do we get that on a showdown slate where you have a easy way to get different from what everyone else is going to do. You have that opportunity tonight.
No doubt about it. Let's talk wide receivers now. We've got Denver on one side, and it's kind of just a matter of it's a big spread. It's a big spread. How much are they going to pass? Like, at what point do they stop? And that's always a leery in a game like this. And on the other side, Jacoby Meyer's gone. What's the fallout from that? Because as much as you don't like the Raiders, as low as that team total is, there's got to be some volume for somebody there. So is it the obvious names, or are you going with maybe a rookie that's under the radar or something along those lines?
Yeah, we'll get to the Raiders in a second. I think that's probably the key to the slate is figuring out who's going to step into a bigger role here. And I think there's a few candidates, but Denver side, Sutton obviously can make the case. He's the alpha in this offense. Some people may fight you on that and say it's really Troy Franklin, and that's who I prefer out of these two. He's a little bit cheaper. They're pretty much playing, the same amount of snaps, and target rates are all pretty similar here. So why not take the savings here on Troy Franklin? Not that Sutton's out of play. He can always pop off for big games, but he's not a huge volume receiver, Chop. He's not seeing, 9, 10, 11 targets. This team really spreads the ball around. So I think you want to do the same with your exposure, kind of spread things around a little bit. So those two are the highlights. I really like Pat Bryant, and you probably know him well, University of Illinois. He showed some flashes here. No Marvin Mims tonight. So I think that's going to open up some more opportunity for Pat Bryant, who, they've gone to him around the red zone, and that can be super valuable in a showdown format. One touchdown from a cheap guy could be all it takes to catapult your lineup up. So he's one of my favorite values on this slate. As far as the Raiders go, honestly, it's a mess. Who's going to step up? They spent a lot of draft capital on Jack Besh. Is it his opportunity? Does Deontay Thornton re-enter our life? Or do they want to continue to roll out Tyler Lockett here, which makes zero sense to me when you're a team that's struggling, trying to rebuild. Why are we giving Tyler Lockett so many snaps? So all of those guys are interesting. I think Besh will be the guy most people go to. I like taking shots on Thornton, and this is he could be a zero, but he's a big play guy down the field. And if they're throwing a lot, he may not even play that many snaps, but I'm going to take my chances with him as well. Trey Tucker, I'm not super excited about tonight. Yes, he elevates to that number one receiver role. Projections look good on him, but I'd rather take shots on some of these cheaper Raiders guys. Thornton is a guy that I want to be above the field. I mean, we haven't projected for 1.2 points. So, some people out there are like, you're crazy. This guy's only going to play 8 snaps. He may not play at all. I like big play guys in formats like this. he provides that. So maybe this is his window, his door to re-enter, because he was playing early on. You know, they had him pegged as a starting wide receiver. He's kind of disappeared a little bit. So Besh is interesting too. Again, the draft capital, and this guy was super productive in college. So I just think the opportunity is here for these guys. This team isn't going anywhere. Let's see what we have here. Thornton, a guy that I want to definitely take a stand on here tonight.
Yeah, Jack Besh was a tight end at LSU. He was a tight end at LSU and transferred to TCU, became a wide receiver, had a really nice season there with him, and it's vaulted him into the NFL. So Denver's without the best guy at his position in the game of football tonight in the secondary, Patrick Surtain. So who steps up there? How do they do that? Well, they've got good pieces. They're not the same as when they have Surtain. No, it changes the game plan basically. Right. So I wonder, you mentioned Thornton and some big plays, and Riley Moss. He has good numbers. Like, the numbers are there, but he also leads the league. I believe he leads the league still in defensive penalties, pass interferences, holding calls. That tells me he gets beat, but he just does, he's he's wily enough to go ahead and take the penalty instead of giving up the 60-yard touchdown. But he can be beat, is what I'm saying. So yeah, I like that call on a big play guy from the Raiders, because that's the thing that could hit the optimal tonight. So
especially if they're playing from behind, they may have to take more shots. And what the hell do we have to lose? Let's just let it rip down the field. So I like these super risky plays. Are you playing them in a cash game? No, there's safer options. But in a format like this, at very low ownership, especially with his projection that low, nobody's going to project this guy very high. Not going to pop in any sims. You can find that player that hits. That's how you catapult to the top.
Definitely. Who was it? Is Alex? Alex made a comment in chat. He says, "Can you imagine bellying up to the fantasy bar with beer? Yeah, get down and get up there next. Beer likes to play a little poker too.
Absolutely.
Get beer get him some poker. Get him a few beers in him. Have a good time with beer, man. He likes that stuff. Tight ends, man. Who is this? Oh, I just got one in chat that says, talk about some Evan Ingram. Yeah, Evan Ingram, Brock Bowers. He's so good, man. The popularity of him tonight is going to probably be off the charts, but he can beat anybody anytime. He's just a great pass catching tight end. We got him in this game. Evan Ingram on the other side. Maybe he's the guy that steps up with no Marvin Mims tonight. Who knows? Where all that kind of stuff goes. Trower, Mayer's in the game. Tight ends. What's your interest level in these guys?
Yeah, a lot of interest in Bowers, even as a captain. We talked about most captains are going to be Denver guys. If it's not Nix, it's Sutton, it's Franklin, it's Dobbins, it's Harvey, it's Ingram. Like the list goes on and on. That they'll probably be 80% of the captains you see tonight. So Bowers showed what kind of upside he has, and he could damn well be the only Raider that does anything, and that may be all that you need in a captain spot. You could go with your 5 Denver guys, and they do what they're going to do, and Bowers has his big game. So very, very playable tonight. I don't think it's we're buying low, we're buying high on last week. This guy is that good, and now you take Jacoby Myers out of the lineup. He's their best receiver. Let's be honest. He's not really even a tight end. So very interested in him. Not as high on Evan Ingram tonight. I know he's capable of some big games, but they just spread around the tight end usage so much. I mean, they love having guys like Troutman on the field. So he definitely has the upside for sure, but I just worry a little bit about his usage. And maybe he gets a little more with Mims tonight. Maybe it's not Pat Bryant, it's Evan Ingram, but he's a guy I'm a little bit lower on. I do like Michael Mayer quite a bit as a value play. While everyone's trying to figure out what we just talked about, is it Besh? Is it Lockett? Is it Thornton? Is it somebody else? It could be Michael Mayer. That's the number 2 receiver for this team tonight. They utilize a lot of 2 tight end sets. He's still getting a big target tree. All the focus is going to be on Bowers, so it should put him in some advantageous matchups. I think he's one of the better value plays on tonight's slate.
Yeah, so we're talking about Bowers and how good he is and all that stuff. And I would just imagine that tonight is probably one of the more popular builds. If you're doing a 5-1 Denver build, that one guy run back is going to be Brock Bowers in a lot of lineups. So you could just, if you're in large field, you might want to break away from that now. I'm playing some really small field stuff. And I've got the Brock Bowers as the one guy in there, but it's small field, man. And I think I got a little bit different by doing something else. So, but you be prepared. The 5-1 with Brock Bowers as the run back. That's a popular option right there. Talk to me real quick about the kickers and the defenses. Anything jump out to you? Playable, not playable? Do you prefer kickers over lower end wide receivers? How you handling that?
Yeah, Will Lutz is probably my favorite of the group of four. Kicking in altitude, a team that's projected for a lot of points, obviously advantageous. I worry a little bit on the Raiders side. Unless if the game could stay close, and again, you tell yourself that story, then maybe they're kicking field goals. But the likely scenario is they know they get to score. So what might normally be a field goal attempt, they may apt to go for it instead of kick a field goal. So the altitude helps, though. Maybe they're in a situation where, you're at home, you're not kicking a 58-yarder. The hell, we're in Denver. Let's give it a shot. So I like both kickers, but I definitely prefer Lutz. Defense, Denver, definitely the much better play. I mean, doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you that. Geno has been very turnover prone this season, so it's certainly in favor of Denver. There's builds where, again, you want to avoid Bo Nix. Give me Dobbins, give me Harvey, give me the Denver defense. Builds like that, I think it makes sense. The Raiders you're playing because they're cheap and nobody would want them, and we know the randomness of defense. It just takes one play for a defense. Score a touchdown, you get the returns, who knows? So it's things people don't factor in. They just look at Raiders against Denver. One punt return, one block kick, one this, one that, one flip of the ball, and they become very, very important. So Denver defense certainly in play. Raiders are a great GPP kind of pivot off of everything else at low ownership. And the kickers, I definitely prefer Lutz tonight.
All right, let's answer some questions, and then we'll get to some plums and see if we got any more questions. Talk about Evan Ingram. We kind of did. We hit up a little bit on Evan Ingram. Solid, solid play probably. Yeah, who knows how it's going to play out? He's in line for targets, but he's in the back of the line. But we'll see how that goes. Could Geno pull a Jameis and just go off in Denver tonight? You kind of talked about it, like. What on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you put the odds that Geno can actually have a really good game in Denver tonight, with 10 being a monster game?
3.5.
So it could happen, and you want that in large field,
right? Is it likely? No. That's why the spread is what it is. That's why the total is what it is. But it's the unexpected outcomes that win people money. So willing to take a shot on it and be different. That your lineup should feel uncomfortable. It should feel, I don't know, or I left too much money on the table, or I have too many Raiders. That's what you want. That's how you want to feel when you're building lineups. So anything can happen in this game. Do I think my Packers were going to lose at home to the Carolina Panthers? No. Lose on the road to the Browns? No. I mean, we see it all the time. Geno is more than capable, and we've seen many, many games of him putting up big time numbers. So yeah, 3.5. So not likely, but certainly possible.
Hey guys, do you think Tyler Lockett is more involved in this game? Beer, what do you think?
I think annoyingly he is. Like I said, if it's me, I want my youngsters out there and see what they got, and maybe these guys just aren't ready to play yet. So things that we see compared with things that the team sees, are obviously two different things. So I do think he'll be involved. We saw it last week. He's that trusty veteran underneath. So I think he carries more value on DraftKings, where he might rack up them short receptions. But I'm not excited about playing Tyler Lockett tonight. I'll say that.
And it's not basketball, man. These guys get like 17, 18 weeks here out of the year to do something. They're not just going to tank. Like, the players aren't going out there.
Right.
Say, oh, well, okay, this would really be beneficial if our guys got the number one pick. So we're going to, man, they're playing hard. The coaches are coaching hard. They want to win every game. It's not like that. I remember, what was it, just a few years ago when stupid Houston wins that game and cost themselves the number one pick in the draft. And that it might have been for the good for them. Who knows? But it was, the stuff like that alters the course of history in the NFL. But everybody's competing, man. They don't care about the number one pick. So as much as we hate Lockett and we think it should be younger guys, they're trying to win. So maybe they feel like he's the best chance to win. So we're getting a couple questions on Mike Bandy. So I'll just ask the first one: Mercedes Lewis or Mike Bandy, a GPP dumpster dive, and then expound on Bandy, your interest on Bandy. Somebody else asked about him.
Not a ton of interest here. It's interesting that they bring Mercedes Lewis back. I think he's 41 years old, I want to say. I mean, so them just bringing him in, it kind of speaks words of where they're at. So I don't really have a ton of interest in either. I don't think you need to go that route. I mean, we're always looking for the guy that, he could score a touchdown and we're good. I don't have a ton of interest in either of those guys tonight, if I'm being honest.
You doing any lineups with Tyler Beatty in it?
I have not gotten there yet. I don't know that I will. Again, he's very interesting. I think he, in a blowout, gets some extra run, but he's getting work. Is he seeing a ton of run? Not really. And I think Harvey's role is only going to continue to grow, and that'll come at the expense of Dobbins somewhat and Beatty somewhat. They want to use multiple backs, but I don't think it's another spot you need to go there tonight. So I'm out on him.
Derek said, question DK GPP, Franklin in 4 or 5 lineups, or take one down to Bryant and just leave a bunch of cash on the table. So Franklin in 4 of the 5, or does he go off that a little bit on one of them and just leave a ton of money on the table?
What I like to do is if I look at a lineup and it's, it has, all kind of the names that all are going to have ownership and it looks like this could be duplicated a bunch, is making a swap like that. Simply taking Franklin out and going to Bryant. Franklin's going to project better. He's likely the better play, but this leaves money on the table, gets you a little bit different, spreads out your exposures a little bit. So if it's me, I'm making that adjustment and really making my lineup different and taking my chances.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know who Buell. Oh, it must be Tasteful Tides. The last spot 200 for utility. Bobby Gomes, Dean Shavelson, or Tasteful Tides. I mean, that's a pretty easy one for me, but I'll let you answer this one.
I want to hear what you got to say.
Well, I'm probably going to pass on Bobby Gomes, respectfully. Shavelson's a hell of a host, man, but Tasteful Tides, he knows his stuff, man. So
depends on the rest of your lineup, right? If you it depends on the correlation. If you need a host, you obviously got to get Dean in there. But if you got some hosting power on that team, then I think you get yourself some Tasteful Tides.
Yeah, ultimately I think we all agree that Bobby Gomes is the Trent Sherfield of this slate. I'm not going that route, man.
Wow.
Not going that route.
You couldn't even give him
respectfully,
Jack
Gomes.
Besh.
Listen, Gomes.
Man,
if Gomes hears this, I need Gomes to hear this. When I ask for the Plums play is not a one-word answer. You got to expound on it, brother. You got to give me some juice, man. I need some juice in this show, man. It's not a one-word answer, but watch Beer do it later. He'll show you how to do it. Thoughts on Jack Besh?
I am not as excited as he's popping in a lot of optimals. When you run lineups, he seems to be the value play du jour, and it makes sense. Again, they spent draft capital on this guy, proven producer in college. That doesn't always translate, as we know, but he is a guy I think's role is going to grow. Does it happen tonight? It out of necessity almost has to happen, but what if it is Tucker and Lockett, and then they're just kind of sprinkling in these other guys? So I'll have some. I'm not as high as everybody else. That's it seems to be with the ownership on him. So I'll have a sprinkling of Besh for sure.
Beer, you just got me to switch my single entry to Geno Kaplen, says Mardon. Yeah, why a single entry? Why not, man? Take a shot.
Why not?
Who knows?
Why not?
Also,
now, no coming back and be like, you told me to play Geno and the captain. It's risky, but that's what we want. You want to have some risk.
I mean, it's on top of everything else. We just honestly don't know how much of a downgrade it is for Denver to lose a player like Surtain. Like it may be a huge thing, and I have my reasons why I think it's not as much, but I could be wrong. I'm not, Speaking of being wrong, I will ask this question. I think this is a really very, very interesting question. I'd be curious to hear what your answer is. I'm conflicted on this too. But Ricky says he's so conflicted. So he hears tonight is a great matchup for Sutton on one hand, which if you look at some numbers and LA Raiders and wideouts, you line up outside the numbers against LA, those guys have success more so than slot guys or something. So I get that Sutton has some good numbers as far as the matchup in those terms. But then you read deeper, and some people say he doesn't play well in zone coverage, and that's what the Raiders play a lot. Like, what's BS? What's real? What do you follow? Like, are you looking at any of that stuff on a weekly basis?
I look at it some, but a lot of it you need more context. I mean, Chop, we could say, this zone defense is, he played 3 or 4 of the best defenses in the league, and his numbers are bad against zone. Like, that may not equate against the Las Vegas Raiders, if that makes sense. Or, he may have played some bad defenses that play man defense, so the numbers are elevated. So I look at it some. My concern with Sutton is more of Franklin, is on the rise. You have Ingram there. You have Harvey in the passing game. Have Pat Bryant in the passing game. So it's more of a, how many targets is he going to get? Like, he's got to hit on his targets, which he can. We've seen some big games. So that's more of the concern with me, is the volume with him. He's going to need that touchdown or 2. He's not going to get 9, 10, 11 targets, but they're likely not going to have to throw a ton of this game. And even if they do, they can spread it out to so many different guys. So I look at that stuff for sure. I put stock in it for sure, but I think it always needs more context. So, you can always argue sample size too. What are we looking at this season? Are we looking at the last 3 seasons? Sometimes there's just not enough data to put any faith in those numbers.
And so a lot of times it's just it doesn't matter, man. It just doesn't matter. Like I said this a long time ago, and I'd always think this, but if I had my choice in the NFL, you give me the best projections out there, top of the line, give me the top of the line projections and make them 20% even better than that. Or I get option B, which is I can be a fly on the wall in the room of the coaching staff for each one of these teams on the slate that week. Give it, as they go over the game plan. Give me that game plan. That's what matters. They know who they want to go to. They know about all of this stuff, and they know what matters or not, and that's what they're game planning for. So they're sitting there right now knowing this is a big Sutton night. We're going to get Sutton the ball, or they know, you know what, we are going to feed Evan Ingram tonight. You're going to see that, and then by the second quarter, you're going to be going, geez, I wish I would have known that. That's just the way it works. So you can read all that and look at all that. And sometimes it just doesn't matter.
And sometimes it can happen in game. Like, we may very well want to, okay, we want to go to this guy, and they're double teaming Cortland Sutton. So we have to adjust on the fly and go to somebody else.
Look at all this too high safety they're playing in. We didn't expect that. Well, we got to run the ball now. Well, hell, if I'd have known that, I could have played J.K. Dobbins 100%, because that's what's and he's going to feast on something like it. We don't know, but so, it is what, just find something you're comfortable reading and have some success with, and make some decisions. You don't have to mess around with all that other stuff. Thornton Jr. ? You kind of hit on him, but expound just a little bit more for the peoples.
It's a big play guy at very, very minimal ownership, and all it takes is one for him to get behind this defense. And whether the game's competitive, whether they're getting blown out, I don't know what kind of role he's going to have. I can't sit here and tell you that, Thornton's going to play this amount of snaps. We don't know what this Raiders pass catching core is going to look like, but if they get behind, okay, let's get, do we want to still roll Tyler Lockett out here? Okay, we tried to win. Now we're behind. We need a big play that Tyler Lockett is not offering anymore. This isn't, 2015, had a hell of a career, but those days are likely well behind him. And it's that one deep shot, that's all it takes. So very, very risky. He could play 0 snaps. I want to make this very clear. He could not even be on the field. He was inactive last week. So yes, he's active, but he may not play at all. These are the plays I love. A guy that can hit a home run with one swing of the bat, with one long catch. Yes, it's risky. I love taking risks like this in these kind of games.
Yeah. And let's say the optimal build ends up being like a 5-1 Denver. It's a blowout. They got all that. And you have to run it back with a Raider. You cannot go 6 Broncos. So there's got to be a Raider. Who's to say that a 50-yard, one reception for 50 yards, not even getting into the end zone. But he gets 6 DK points at that price tag. Who's to say that is not the optimal Raider as opposed to Bowers, because Bowers is so expensive and Bowers catches 7 for 70 yards, but that's not going to sniff the optimal because he's too expensive. And you got a lot of outs with that option. So I like that. We got 8.5 minutes roughly. Let me real quick before we do Plums play tonight. Combo Pro, first month of Combo Pro at RG, $79.99. That is an elite value for you guys if you're into that kind of thing. It's like $5 more than if you just did the NFL, but with this, you get the whole combo of it. So you got that going for you. And if you're not into the whole 1 month, let me pay $79.99. You just want a sample. You want a little sprinkle, a little sampler platter. A 3-day pass promo for a limited time. You get half off a 3-day NFL pass, which has access to Lineup HQ, SimLabs. It's $9.99. Just a little sample. See if you like it or not. See if you can win. Maybe you use it for 3 days at the right time. Hit it to where you get it on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and maybe you pay off. Maybe you pay off the whole year with one little 3-day sample on the weekend, man. So you got that going for you. Beer, I'm going to turn it over to you. Plums play of the night. The people need it with 7 minutes left. What you got?
Harvey.
Thanks, Bobby. Talk to you next week.
Yeah, we're out. I love RJ Harvey in this spot. Price is fair. Upside is there. If they get out ahead, maybe he gets some more run. He can be involved in the passing game. He pairs well with Bo Nix. There's just a lot of things in his favor here tonight. So he's a guy I definitely want a ton of in my lineup. So RJ Harvey going to be my Plums play of the night.
All right. 7 minutes. I'm going to give you one. Now I'm going to start off by saying I fully think that the leading receiver tonight for Denver is Courtland Sutton. I think it's a really good spot for him, just at least at the very least, to get him going in the right direction, which you mentioned earlier hasn't been the case this year. He's had some bad games, but we're playing a salary game here and we're playing an ownership game. Marvin Mims is down. The Raiders probably stink. I don't want to assume anything, but the defense probably isn't very good. So let's say we get something out of somebody from the passing game not named Sutton. I'm going Pat Bryant. I think the price is cheap enough. I think everybody will say, if not Sutton, then Troy Franklin. Well, about Pat Bryant, he's talented. He's good. You mentioned earlier, Illinois kid, was awesome last year. I'll go Pat Bryant, man. It doesn't take much to pay off $3,200. You never know how they're going to go for it. With that being said, 6 minutes left. Let's do some rapid fire real quick, and then we'll get out of here in a couple minutes if there's no more questions.
I love the Bryant call. He was on my short list of names, so I big fan. His role, especially with Mims out, he should play a pretty sizable role, big body, and again, a guy that they've shown he's made some good catches when they get near the goal line, and they're not afraid to throw to him. So absolutely love that call. He's one of my favorite values tonight.
So some rapid fire for you. Given the context of the game and a potential Denver ice in this game in the second half and not much passing, who has more passing yards, Geno or Bo Nix?
In that script, it's Geno. So
in that script, in general, if you had to go in blind though before the game,
I'm still going to go Geno.
Okay, I like it. More receiving yards, Trey Tucker or Troy Franklin?
I'm going to go Franklin. I'm not a big Trey Tucker fan. I know he had his big game and that upside's there, but to me, he's like a wide receiver 3, going to try to be operating as a wide receiver 1. I just don't know if it's going to work. And Franklin's been on the rise, seeing a ton of targets. Give me Franklin.
Bo Nix, over or under 33 pass attempts tonight?
Under.
Okay, we see where you're leaning here. Ashton Genty, 54.5 rushing yards.
Under.
Okay. Brock Bowers, 70 on the receiving yards.
Over. Close, though. I'd have him pegged right in there.
Rushing yards. Who's going to have more rushing yards here? RJ Harvey or his quarterback, Bo Nix?
That's a great question. I'm going to say Harvey. And I see some questions in the chat about Harvey and Dobbins and using them together. Absolutely. And that's a great way. If you want to get away from the Bo Nix chalk, he's likely optimal for sure. He should be in a lot of your lineups, but that's one way. Maybe they just destroy this team with their running backs, and Nix has a decent game, but not a good enough game to end up in the optimal. So just different ways to build.
Real quick, what are your thoughts on Mayer from Olu?
He's one of my favorite values. My two favorite values, and I'm not going to include RJ Harvey here, are Pat Bryant and Michael Mayer, who I almost made my Plums play. They're, like I said earlier, he could be the second best pass catcher here. I mean, very talented tight end. Unfortunately, they bring in Brock Bowers, and he's got to play Robin the Batman. But this guy is highly, highly talented, and they've shown they're going to have both of these guys out on the field, which can be tough to defend. I don't care what defense you are. Couple big athletic tight ends, and you got Trey Tucker screaming down the field. You got to worry about Genty. As bad as this team can be, there are some pieces there. I think he's a phenomenal value play tonight.
Yeah, and Ricky says, what happens if they try and double Bowers? Who's gonna be the one left open? Well, I would say first, it's really tough to double a guy like Bowers.
Yeah,
because of where they're going to line him up. It's really easy if you wanted to double Sutton, which I'm not saying they are tonight. That's pretty easy. Bowers a lot tougher to double, but supposing they devote a lot of coverage to Bowers and just try to shut him down, who's the guy that would benefit there?
Mayer, and it's likely Besh, I would say. Again, if I could know the snap counts of the Vegas receivers, that would be the one thing I'd want to know coming into this game. How many snaps is Lockett going to play? Besh, Dante Thornton, all of these guys. So that's why there's intrigue, because we don't know, and people kind of back off of situations like that. That's where you want to jump in. So to answer the question in a roundabout way, I do think it's Mayer, and I do think Besh has a decent game tonight.
I got it. Agreed with it. 2 minutes left, guys, to this thing locks. We're going to jump out of here because I'm not seeing too many more questions, but we do appreciate your time. Appreciate the questions. Appreciate Beer coming on here, giving all this good knowledge. Get those lineups in. Good luck in those GPPs for TJ behind the scenes and Beer joining us here. I was your host, Chop. We'll see you on Monday Night Football, but until then, we are out of here.